Hey everyone, and just give it another minute to see who else is coming in. Okay, today we're talking about inference questions. These are pretty tough in a way. They're different from the other types, a lot of the other types of critical reasoning questions, because they're reversed. In most types of critical reasoning questions, they give us the conclusion in the passage, and we have to find something about the conclusion in the answer choices. In inference questions, they give us a passage, and then we have to find the conclusion and the answer choices. So they are different, and at the same time, there are some similarities between these because, I mean, we're looking for the same type of support for a conclusion. You know, we're looking for what follows, we're looking for what's plausible, we're looking for logical implications. Those are super important. And so they do have that all in common with other kinds of critical reasoning questions. And the one other thing, or the other main thing, the inference questions have in common with other types of critical reasoning questions is that inference questions, like other critical reasoning questions, are very much about telling the difference between trap choices and correct answers. In fact, if you approach critical reasoning as a game of telling trap choices from correct answers, you're already well on your way, because a lot of the stuff we do for critical reasoning sets us up the foundation. Like, how am I going to tell what's a trap choice versus a correct answer? So if we're doing, as we've seen, a weaken, strengthen, or assumption question, one of the key things that's going to help us avoid choosing a trap choice is understanding exactly what the conclusion is, right? Because the conclusion is what we have to weaken, strengthen, or find an assumption for. So a lot of the time, the trap choices attack or strengthen or the wrong conclusion. So that in inference questions, we're also going to see trap choices as well. So what are trap choices and inference questions going to do? They are not going to follow from what the passage says. Because as we know, in inference, in an inference question, it's something that must be true given what the passage says. Now, just as an aside, there's another type of question out there called conclusion questions. And those don't, the conclusions in those don't have to be true. If you're using the course, we have two different chapters, one for inference and one for conclusion. Honestly, the two types of questions are pretty similar, but there is that key difference. That in an inference question, the ones that say what can be inferred, it's not something plausible, it's not something that's likely, it's not something that fits the situation. It's really something that the statements add up to. In fact, inference questions are a lot like math problems, right? The statements say something. If you see in a math problem, x is greater than 6. Well, you know it has to be true that x does not equal 6. And we also know it has to be true that x doesn't equal 5. But we don't know that x equals 7, right? So that wouldn't be a valid inference. See the difference? In an inference question, yes, if x is greater than 6, we know that x is not 5. That's a valid inference. It's like math. We definitely know. But it's not a valid inference to say that x is 20 or x is 100, because we really don't know what x is from the information that x is greater than 6. So, you know, these inference questions are a lot like math problems. In fact, critical reasoning has a lot in common with quant. My quant skills have gotten so much better over the last few years. I've been focused on verbal. So if you're good at inference, you're probably going to also, you know, you can, if you want to get better at data sufficiency, get better at inference. Because data sufficiency, by the way, is what can we infer? Can we infer, as I was just saying, can we infer that x is 7? No, we can't without information that x is greater than 6. So if you're good at inference questions, you're probably also going to be good at quant. And if you want to get better at quant, get better at inference. Okay, now, there are two main types of trap choices in inference questions. As we're saying, the correct answer has to be something supported by the passage, like with mathematical precision, right? It basically has to be true. It has to follow from the passage, okay? So it follows from the passage and it's something that must be true. So what would trap choices do? Well, one of the main types of traps we'll see in inference questions is this type, is choices that fit with the information, but are not supported by it, right? So if I say, I don't know, Jim crashed the car, it fits that Jim was probably speeding, but do we know that he was speeding? No, right? I don't know, it fits that Jim might be hurt, but do we know that he's hurt? No. So all these things fit with the information presented by the passage, but they are not supported by it. And that's the key difference. So it has to follow from and be true. It has to be something that must be true. So if Jim crashed the car, what must be true? The car is damaged, right? The car hit something. I don't know, maybe we could say the car stopped moving, you know, but that we can't be 100% sure of. So anyway, you see what I'm saying? There's a lot of things as we go through these questions we're gonna look at. We're gonna see that a lot of the choices fit with the information in the passage, but are not supported. And if you can learn to tell the difference, you're going to be kind of set for inference. Yeah, in the inference question, it must be true. So, right, so what we're doing when we're practicing inference is going through these choices, one of the things, and developing awareness of whether something just fits or whether it's actually, you know, supported by the passage with mathematical precision. If you can tell the difference between those two things, you're halfway there. The other thing, the other type of trap, main other types of trap choices that we see in inference questions that are really tricky are choices that fit reality, but are not supported by the passage. Okay, getting back to our lovely example, Jim crashed the car. Well, what fits reality? I don't know. Jim is going to have his insurance is going to go up, right? Jim is going to have to take a drunk driving class. A lot of things fit reality. Jim, I don't know, is now shaken and scared. They certainly fit reality, but we don't have information on any of that, right? So another thing we're going to have to become super aware of when we're going through these inference questions is, does this choice fit reality? You know, and if you're asking yourself, what is true in reality, when you're answering an inference question, you have to take a step back and say, whoa, I shouldn't be thinking about what fits in reality, right? Someone asked me the other day, well, how do I tell the difference? Well, slow down and determine where your reasoning is coming from. Are you really looking at what the passage says? Or are you going with, you know, your gut? And of course, they're going to do that. Of course, these critical reasoning questions are going to do that. They're going to give you choices that fit reality because they know how you're thinking. So you have to really ask yourself, is what I'm looking at here supported by the passage? If you do these two things, sort information that fits with the information presented but isn't supported with it by it, and choices that, notice the difference if the choices fits reality or supported by the passage, you're going to get 90 to 100% of inference questions correct. Now, of course, you're not going to get them all correct at first if you're trying to do them in 2 minutes each. So before we start with these, we're going to spend a little more than 2 minutes on the questions we look at. But I want to reiterate that do these questions I'm telling you in the beginning. It's just like learning math. When you were in the 8th grade learning to do FOIL, you didn't do it all in 2 minutes each. The first time you did it, you would go, oh, okay, A times, B time, and then, okay, and then the middle, you try to figure out, wait, I'm supposed to call F, oh, first, inside, outside, okay. I mean, it didn't take you 2 minutes to do it. Now it can take you 30 seconds to FOIL something. So this is the same way. So many people that come to me and ask me, well, I'm having trouble with verbal, I'm doing pretty well in quant, but I'm having trouble with verbal. What's going on? So often I look at their TTP analytics, and all I see is they're spending 1 minute and 30 seconds on each question. And so in so many cases, all I have to do is tell the person, slow down, give yourself time to learn, give yourself time to get these correct, and you're going to do much better. And you know what? You're going to, as you get more skill, you're going to speed back up, and it works like clockwork. Okay. So if you're having trouble with inference questions, a big thing I can tell you is learn these 2 types of traps, and also slow down and just learn to go, wait, I'm not sure yet. Are you sure? I'm not sure yet. You're down to 2 choices. Are you really sure that choice A? No, I'm not sure yet. Well, then don't leave the question yet, because what you're doing when you're practicing is you're developing mental pathways, and you're literally telling your neurons in your brain what to do. Like a football team, when they practice, they go, well, who's going to play defense, right? I'm simplifying, but you get what I'm saying. So those guys all go and play defense, and then you get another set of guys who plays offense, right? Or if you have a volleyball team, so some of the girls are playing in the front, some of the girls are playing in the back. Okay, so who's going to do what? Who's playing what position? What are we each good at? And then they all team up and they figure out how to get the job done. Well, your neurons in your head, I'll tell you in a second on that one, Luis. And neurons in your head are doing the same thing when you're practicing. So the team takes time to gel. So take your time practicing in the beginning. Don't expect to get them all right. You're running through the plays. That's what the team is doing. So take your time, and if you can get them right slowly, you'll speed up. That's what I've seen. If you can learn to get them right slowly and just keep getting them right, you'll go from 20 minutes per question to 15 to 10, 5 to 2. But if you try to do them all in 2 minutes per question, you're going to be getting, if you try to do them all in 2 minutes per question and getting, 40% incorrect, well, how are you going to learn to get more right? Because you're not giving yourself time to learn. So definitely give yourself time to learn. Okay, and along with that, do I recommend having background noise? You could. A little background noise is not the worst thing, because as you just said in your question, there is some background noise in the test center, things going on. I don't know, a little could be good, but really the main thing you want to focus on is getting, just developing those mental pathways. And okay, the other question before we move on, which trap would numerical inference be? I don't know. If it's really numerical inference, it's not a trap. There's a couple of, it could fit either type. A numerical trap could either be something that fits the information presented and isn't supported, but it's, like I said, if X is greater than 6, X equals 7 is plausible, but it's not supported. So that would, that would fit with the information, but it's not supported by it. So I guess maybe the first one is more likely for numerical issues. Okay, so let's hit a question. And remember these 2 types of traps. These are tricky questions. I didn't pick easy ones because we can all do the easy one. So remember, you're dealing with these 2 types of traps, and really think to yourself, am I thinking about what's supported by reality, or what's likely, or what fits the situation, or is this truly supported basically mathematically by what the passage says? As usual, please hold off on, yeah, you were just asking. We're just, everybody, just please hold off on putting your answers at least for another minute, and then put them in to give everybody a chance to really look at it in an unbiased way. Okay, let's see. What do you think? Tell it's tricky. We got a lot of different choices coming. Okay, let's go through this. First, of course, you read the passage. And by the way, a lot of people ask that I read the question stem first. And I would say read the passage first, because you know what? You can tell what the passage is about without reading the question stem. And the question stem will distract us from seeing everything in the passage. I mean, I read this passage, I don't see a therefore, I don't see a conclusion. So I can pretty much tell there's no paradox. It's not a paradox question. There's no blank at the end, so it's not a complete passage question. So you can kind of tell what it is just by reading it. So read the passage first, and let's see what's going on. For a trade embargo against a particular country to succeed, look at this, for it to succeed, interesting, a high degree of international accord and ability to prevent goods from entering or leaving that country must be sustained. Okay, so look how this is like math. In order for it to succeed, we must have this. So this is a mathematically precise necessity. If we don't have a high degree of international accord, if we don't have A plus B, an ability to prevent goods, then this trade embargo will not be sustained, because both of these both of these must be sustained for this to happen. Okay, so this is a key fact. Look at the direction on this thing. In order for X to occur, Y must occur. Very simple. Okay. A total blockade of Apache ports is necessary to an embargo. So this is another necessity. And without blockade, if blockade is out, embargo's out too. See what it's saying? Now, by the way, I have a question. Does it say if blockade goes up, then we're definitely going to get an embargo? Anybody? Exactly. Doesn't say that. So this is the kind of stuff we notice for this inference thing. We're looking at the direction here. Yes, it goes, this is a one-way thing. It says it's necessary to embargo, but it doesn't say it's sufficient for an embargo. Exactly. We need another condition to be fulfilled. But such an action would likely cause international discord. So I see a contrast here. It's necessary, but it's likely to cause international discord. Okay, so it's necessary up, but discord is working against it down. See how these are all forces. We've seen these in other questions. We talked about this with paradox questions. We've got one force up and one force down. We have conflicting forces. Okay, we don't know. We really don't know. Okay, but it says would be likely to cause. You know what? I did a funny thing here. Anyway, this is not an inference question. It's a conclusion question. So anyway, we'll still do it the same. Okay, so we've seen what's going on here. We have all these facts. We have this necessity for a trade embargo. We have these necessary for X to occur, Y must occur. And we have another necessity, and then we have a force against them. Okay, so let's see what's supported by this. The claims above, if true, most strongly support which of the following conclusions, starting with A. The balance of opinion is likely to favor Patria in the event of a blockade. I'm not even going to say that this is a trap, because is there anything in this passage about a balance of opinion is likely to favor Patria? Absolutely nothing. This is one of our easy outs, right? Let's get rid of it. B, as long as international opinion is unanimously against Patria, a trade embargo is likely to succeed. Okay, so we went through this passage and we saw a couple key things. For a trade embargo to succeed, we need these two things, this international accord, and we need the ability to prevent goods from entering. Okay, cool. So we definitely have a trade embargo is likely to succeed, something about that. But remember what direction we said. They both show that the trade embargo will not succeed if we don't have them. But it doesn't say the trade embargo will succeed if we do have them, right? I mean, this is the stuff we're going to notice. It's just like DS. We don't know. We don't know what happens if a trade embargo is likely to succeed. We only have information what happens if we don't have these things. It won't succeed. In order for it to succeed, we need X and Y, but it does not say that it will succeed if we have X and Y. So, you know, if you like quant, you're going to like CR2. Because we just did it the same way. Okay, C. A naval blockade of Patria's port would ensure that no goods enter or leave Patria. Okay, this is one of those fits the picture traps. It does fit the picture that a naval blockade would ensure that no goods enter or leave Patria, because that's what naval blockades do, right? They block the ports. So gosh, it would totally make sense. Oh, yeah, back to B. I'm sorry. Yeah, you would actually assume a trade embargo is likely to succeed. I don't know. Let's just say it is. Let's go the most extreme. We've used extremes in quant, right? We can use an extreme here too. As long as international opinion is unanimously against Patria, in the most extreme case where the trade embargo is perfect, is it likely to succeed? I don't know. Yeah. I have no idea, right? So we don't know how good, we don't know how good it is. And what are they trying to succeed even in doing? So all we know is opinion is unanimously against them. I don't know, does the trade embargo succeed? It could be total, maybe it still won't succeed. What are they trying to do? A naval blockade of Patria's ports would ensure that no goods enter or leave Patria. Well, that, as I was saying, that fits the situation, right? It does fit. That's what naval blockades do. But by the way, does it say that anywhere in the passage give us support for that? So that's what we have to do. Yes, it fits, but do we have support for no goods enter? And this is one of those extreme choices. And I'm not saying that extreme choices are always wrong, but do we have any information that says how many goods will enter? Well, no goods. Nobody will even sneak a pack of cigarettes across. Doesn't say that, right? It just says an embargo. A blockade, a total blockade of ports is necessary to an embargo. But I don't know. a naval blockade would ensure? Maybe they can fly them in. I don't know, maybe somebody will swim them in. So no, we don't know that a total naval blockade will succeed. It fits the information, but it's not supportable. Skipping to E. For a blockade of Patriot's ports to be successful, international opinion must be unanimous. It has that vibe to it. It feels like it has to be unanimous, but let's go look. Bounce back to the passage, right? We'll bounce back to the passage, read again. For a trade embargo against a particular country to succeed, a high degree, is that unanimous? International discord, does this say unanimous? No, for a blockade to be successful, international opinion must be unanimous. So this doesn't fit the passage, right? It's not supported, even though it certainly feels like it. They'll do that to us all the time. It feels like what the passage says, but this is going too far. It fits the situation, but it's not supported. High degree is not the same as unanimous. So going to D. Any trade embargo against Patriot would be likely to fail at some time. Okay? What do we think? For a trade embargo to succeed, a high degree of international accord and ability to prevent goods is necessary. It must be sustained. Okay, so we need international accord, but if we do an embargo, we're going to have discord. Does that support the conclusion that it's likely to fail? Yes. You know, and here's the deal. As I was starting to say, this is actually a conclusion question. It says most strongly supports which of the following conclusions, which is not the worst lesson to see here.
I actually don't think so.
The inference ones say can be inferred from, concluded from. This says supported by, strongly supports which of the following conclusions. This is a conclusion question. So unlike what I was saying, this is saying something that can be concluded but doesn't have to be true. Okay. So, you know, I think I saw this last night when I was looking at it, and for whatever reason, I guess I woke up in the morning and used the question anyway. But it all pretty much works. So this is definitely supported by the passage, unlike any of the other choices, right? The other choices are not, by the way, none of these others are supported at all, are they? Right? None of the other choices are supported at all. So it's not close. There's no question. As long as we get our math, we're definitely getting this correct. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. That's a great answer to what you do if you don't know what discord means. Just hack it. Well, it's discord versus accord. Okay. But anyway, so there's one down. So all we did, if you're strong in quant, you're already halfway there, because critical reasoning and the rest of verbal is a lot like quant. It's all logical stuff. Yeah, you know, and as I said, it's a conclusion question, so it's possible the trade embargo would not fail. But this is the deal. Okay, we have support for the idea, because if there is going to be discord and you need accord, a high degree of accord, then it's likely to fail at some time. Moving on. I think I have a good copy of this one. No, I know. Okay. Oh, shoot. Okay. Same thing here. And this one is definitely an inference question. It's information provided by the passage, saying, what do we know from this passage? And let's do the same thing. Remember the difference between a choice that fits the scenario, seems true, feels true, is plausible in reality, versus something that's actually mathematically supported by the passage. This one's real tricky, so be careful. Eliminate your way to an answer. Let's see. It's pretty sick. Looks like my work here is done. Okay, let's go through this. See why everybody thinks the same thing, and hopefully, or almost everybody thinks the same thing, and hopefully it's correct. It'd be pretty funny if it were not correct. Okay, let's start. Number one, read the passage. Transnational cooperation among corporations is experiencing a modest renaissance among United States firms. Okay, even though projects, so this is information, it's experiencing a modest renaissance. Okay, so that's information number one. Even though projects undertaken, so this, it looks like we have an even though, so a little contrast going on here. Undertaken by two or more corporations are less profitable. So two or more corporations are less profitable than projects undertaken by a single corporation. Interesting. The advantage of international cooperation, so now it's telling us what the advantage is, maybe this is why they do it, is such joint projects may allow United States firms to win. Okay, so the advantage is it allows us to win the foreign contracts that they would not otherwise be able to win, right? Okay, so this is, look at our information. Before we go too much detail, let's see what kind of question this is. Which of the following is information provided by the passage? Information provided by the passage, something very strict. What do we know from the passage? This is not a conclusion that's supported by the passage. This is actually, what do we know? What is this telling us for sure? So this is an inference question, and the answer must be true given what we set up here. So let's look once again. Transnational corporation experienced a modest renaissance. Why? Even though, we don't know, even though projects undertaken by two, okay, fact number one, modest renaissance. Fact number two, less profitable, right? Fact number three, the advantage is that they allow firms to win foreign contracts. That's it, that they would not otherwise be able to win. Renaissance, less profitable, win projects you can't otherwise win. Those are our facts. Those are like statement one, statement two in a data sufficiency question. So what do we know from statement one and statement two? Do we know The transnational cooperation involves too big for a single corporation to handle. Where does it say that? It certainly fits the information, right? Oh, these are big. I mean, it fits what they're talking about, or it seems maybe likely. I think this is one of those plausible. I'll step back and say this is actually one of those ones that fits reality. God, maybe these projects are too big for a single corporation to handle. It totally makes sense. Okay, it does say something about a single corporation. So for word matching, you might pick this. But does it anywhere say anything about how they can handle them? Fact number 1, modest renaissance. Fact number 2, 2 or more corporations less profitable. Fact number 3, when they do it, it allows them to win. Nothing about what they can handle. So even though this feels like what's likely true, in reality, not supported by the passage. Boom, gone. X is not 7, at least as far as what the passage. Transnational cooperation. We'll see. We'll see that about C. Transnational cooperation results in a pooling of resources leading to high quality performance. My God. Once again, this question is all about reality versus what the passage supports. Does the passage say anything about high quality performance? I mean, we guess they probably somehow pool resources, but does it say high quality performance? Nothing. All the facts we talked about is profit, their renaissance, and otherwise able to win. Nothing about quality. So even though, yes, you know what, this could very well be true, it has the vibe of being right, it's not supported. And all that matters in these is what is mathematically supported by the passage with mathematical precision. Let's work this up. And by the way, let's look at C. Transnational corporation has in the past both been more common and less common than it is now among United States. I don't know, is it more common or less common? It's a little freaky. You know, I'd almost be tempted to eliminate this one, but you know, I'm not even really sure how to tell whether it's more common or less common. But you know what? If I were doing this question on the test, I'd probably get a little freaked by C and maybe look for some easy outs. So let's look for some more easy outs. E, joint projects between United States and foreign corporations benefit only those who commission the project. Okay, what are our facts? Modest renaissance, less profitable than projects undertaken by a single corporation, gives us the ability to win. Those are all the facts we have. Joint projects benefit only those who commission the projects. There is nothing here that gives us this only. It does tell us that they benefit, but it doesn't say that it benefits only those commissioned projects. Once again, it does say something about the advantage is just that they are able to win contracts. So it doesn't sound as if maybe it benefits anybody else. But does the passage say that? It's not supported. So it's plausible, but it has no support whatsoever in the passage. You don't choose it. Get these all correct. Another easy out. Joint projects between the United States and foreign corporations are not profitable enough to be worth undertaking. It says they're doing it. So this is this one's probably one of the easiest outs there is. It's not profitable enough to be worth undertaking. By the way, okay, so what is this? We saw this in the last one. It went from high degree of accord to unanimous accord. Well, this is doing the same thing. It's taking it too far, right? It does say less profitable up here, right here, right? But it doesn't say not profitable enough. So we have to be so careful not to take things too far. I mean, I guess let's face it, this is another type of trap we've run into twice now. That they took high degree and made it to unanimous. We need unanimous accord. No, we don't need unanimous. We need a high degree of accord. In this case, less profitable is not the same as not profitable enough, right? Has the vibe of what the passage says, but it doesn't match it. So now we've eliminated the easy outs. Now it's like, well, transnational cooperation has been in the past more common and less common than it is now among United States firms. You know, the crazy thing about this one, this choice all is based on this one thing. We didn't even need all the other sentences. Because a modest renaissance means it's coming back. Right? So it's something as a modest Renaissance has definitely become more common. It was less common before than it is now. But a Renaissance also implies that it was more common before, because Renaissance means rebirth. Okay. So this one sentence, Renaissance, supports the whole thing. And this is another thing that we need to know about inference questions. Sometimes just one sentence of the passage will support the whole thing, or support the choice. So it's not necessarily something that feels like what the passage says, or a conclusion that follows from the main point of the passage. We're seeing the whole passage, the main point. No, it's actually just something that has to be true given what the passage says. And in this case, this transnational cooperation has been experiencing a modest renaissance among United States firms. Does the whole thing. Okay. So anyway, and someone's saying, well, okay, it has in the past been both more common and less common. So this is, we definitely need and there. You're asking about the and the reason it's more common, just to repeat this, make clear, the reason it's more common is the Renaissance means that it came back. It's not more common. Whoa, okay, slow down. It was less common before than it is now, because obviously a Renaissance means it's on the upswing. So it was less common before, it is now more common. But it's also been more common than it is now, because a modest Renaissance means it hasn't really come back the whole way. So modest Renaissance means, well, it's coming back some, but it hasn't come back the whole way. So it used to be even more common than it is now. So C is completely supported. And you know what? Here's the deal. C is a little freaky. But even if you're not sure about the whole more common part, certainly it was definitely less common before. And none of these other choices are supported at all. They're gone, right? So you're like, wait a minute. If let's say you were under pressure on the test, you had to answer this one. You stick with this less common part. You see that none of these other ones are supported at all. And you get this correct. So you eliminate your way to the correct answer. Okay. Yes, exactly. Okay, perfect. So everybody looks like you answered each other's questions. Let's do one more. And this one is practically mathematical. Yeah, we can start doing our answers now. Tricky question, right? Okay, let's do it. Got about 10 minutes to go or 12 minutes to go. See what our facts are. Last year, the worldwide paper industry, so this is all mathematical, right? Used over twice as much pulp, fresh pulp, as recycled pulp. Okay, over twice as much fresh pulp as recycled pulp. You could do this basically with math, right? So fresh pulp was over 2 recycled, right? F equals is greater than 2R. A paper industry analyst has projected that by 2010, the industry will use at least as much recycled pulp as it does fresh pulp, while using an even greater quantity of fresh pulp than it did last year. Okay, so we really have just a few, I guess, 3 facts again. One, last year it used over twice as much F, so it's 2F is greater than, let's see, over twice as much as recycle, over twice as much fresh pulp. F is greater than 2, is right, greater than 2R. Over twice as much, right? So F is greater than 2R last year. A paper industry analyst is projected by the 2010 the industry will use at least as much recycled pulp as it does fresh pulp. So F in 2010 they're going to be equal. F is going to equal 2R, equal R, while using a greater quantity. R is going to F is going to get even bigger. So there's our information. If the information above is correct and the analyst projections prove to be accurate, which of the following projections must also be accurate? So basically, which of the following must be true if the analyst projections prove to be accurate? Let's start with E. And remember, it's mathematical, and we also have to, we can't do anything that is not supported in the passage. You know, we can't do what's likely, what fits, or the third type of trap we saw, it's a little more general, is, I don't know if it's a little more general, that goes too far. We can't go too far, we can't do what's plausible, we can't do just what fits, we have to find what actually is completely supported, has to be true. And this is a math one, right? It's all, we're going to nail this down. As compared with last year, E, that in 2010, the paper stream will make less paper that contains only fresh pulp. They're going to make less paper as compared with last year. Notice what this says. They're going to make less paper that contains only fresh pulp. Do we really know that? What does it say about fresh pulp? It's going to use a greater quantity of fresh pulp than it did last year. Does it say anything about mixing the pulp? Yeah, exactly. It doesn't say anything other than the fresh pulp is going to increase. So does that mean they're going to make less paper from fresh pulp? Less paper? Only fresh pulp? Well, it's plausible because they have so much recycled. They're going to make as much recycled pulp, right? Here it is. So you figure they're probably going to mix it. That's what is plausible in reality. But nobody said they're going to mix it. It doesn't say anything about mixing the fresh with recycled and making paper. So for all we know, we're going to use all the fresh pulp to make paper. So we're actually going to have more fresh pulp made, paper made with only fresh pulp, because we are going to have a greater quantity of fresh pulp. It says right here. So E, even though it's completely plausible, it's not supported. Have to be so careful to see. And this is an angle. This is just like DS, right? Okay, D, as compared with last year, in 2010, the paper industry will make more paper that contains only recycled pulp. Actually, it says we're going to have a whole lot of recycled pulp and a whole lot of fresh pulp, right? So this is plausible in reality. I mean, actually, I don't even know if it is plausible in reality. It just says we're going to have more recycled pulp, right? Yes, we're going to have more recycled pulp. But by the way, it doesn't say that they're going to make any paper that contains only recycled pulp. So why this totally fits the situation. But nowhere does it say that they're going to make any paper that contains only recycled. And let's face it, even if there was more recycled pulp than fresh pulp, they could do a 2-to-1 ratio of recycled to fresh. They could do so many things to mix these things together. What if it said there's only going to be a tiny bit of fresh pulp? We could still, if we're doing like our statements, what do our statements support? Statement 1 says there's going to be a tiny bit of fresh pulp. Statement 2 says there's going to be a lot of recycled pulp. Does that mean there's going to be any paper that contains only recycled pulp? No, because they could mix them no matter how little there is. Okay, C. In 2010, the paper industry will produce more paper from a given amount of pulp than it did last year. You know what? This is totally likely in reality. We know that technology improves all the time. So probably it's true that in 2010, whatever year this was, the paper industry got better at making paper and got more paper out of a given amount of pulp. And you know what? There's nothing in the passage that says they're going to make more paper from a certain amount of pulp. Anywhere, right? If we read this thing, more paper from the same amount of pulp, we see it anywhere? No, gone. True, likely in reality, completely plausible, but it's out. B, in 2010, the paper industry will use at least twice as much total pulp as it did last year. This choice is so tricky. Can anybody say why this one is not correct? Why is it not true that they're going to use twice as much? Yeah. We're only increasing, exactly. It's only, exactly. The fresh pulp is not doubling. Perfect. We know the recycled is doubling. We don't know about the increase of fresh. Exactly. Right? So careful, so tricky, because it has that vibe of it. But it doesn't say anything, it says fresh pulp, okay, is going to be greater, but it doesn't say it's going to double. So we are definitely going to double the recycling, or at least more, but we don't know about the trap, right? We have to be, that trap is sick. But if we're being mathematically precise, we're going to get this right. And so, of course, A. In 2010, the paper industry will use at least twice as much recycled pulp as it did last year. And you know what? Let's look at this. It says it used over twice as much fresh pulp, as we see here. And then it says about in 2010, it's going to use at least as much recycled pulp annually as it does fresh pulp while using a greater amount of fresh pulp. So fresh pulp is going to go up from here where it already was. Recycled pulp is going to follow it. So recycled has to go up to 2 times. Recycled is totally supported. Has to be true. Okay, cool. So there's a couple takeaways. There's a couple takeaways. One is we saw our types of traps. Choices that fit the information but are not supported by it. Choices that fit reality but are not supported by the passage. And really the third one we saw is choices that go too far. We went from high degree to humanity. Just basically don't match. It could be too low, a little too low, a little too high. All these questions are 700 level questions.
High 600 plus.
So they were all pretty tricky. If you got tricked, don't be surprised. But we learned a lot from this, and and you can see why you have to be so careful. And if you're not, like in that last one, A and B in this question are so, like B is so tempting. But the thing is, if you're down to two choices, you have to look and say, well, what is the difference? This says twice as much total pulp, and A says twice as much recycled pulp. So that's the key difference here, right? I mean, well, only one of these can be true. So you have to figure out which one is. Take your time, and when you're practicing, spend 15 minutes to do that. Yeah, B is wrong. And no, the sessions aren't recording. Okay, are there any other quick questions? Yeah, the last one I would call it a numerical inference question. One of the best ones I've seen. We're doing question and answer right now, just real quick. Any questions? As far as if you want to use official questions, for verbal in particular, do all the target test prep questions first and do them categorized, and then use official questions after and do them mixed. Especially in sentence correction, it's great to do mixed questions. A lot of people run into the issue, they do all categorized questions and then they get to the test and they're like, gosh, now I don't know it's a modifiers question. So categorize target test prep questions first, official questions second. High degree. What do I mean by high degree? High degree is, I don't know. What's a high degree of accord? Most people, okay, most people are getting along most of the time, and then most of them agree. It's basically a strong amount of agreement as opposed to a weak amount of agreement. You can use LSAT, but they're different. You're better off doing your practice untimed. Okay, and taking more time with the GMAT questions because they fit the format more. So take your time doing the questions. People burn through 30 questions a day and then like, okay, I had to move to LSAT. Well, you're doing too many questions too fast. I've seen people excel at GMAT verbal doing 10 questions a day. But anything that works, anything that will teach you to pay attention and not get smoked, it's going to be great. And for verbal, I have people doing pattern recognition games, like those ones you find on the internet, just plain pattern recognition. I have people doing working memory games, anything that teaches you to see what's going on, remember, pick up on details, patterns, and all that kind of stuff. It's going to work. Okay. And you could, as far as how long before your test date do you start doing official questions? I don't know, a few weeks maybe, if you want to do that. And I guess that's pretty much it. Okay, cool. Okay, so let's call it a day. Thanks a lot, y'all. It's been fun.